What if I told you that citrus trees could actually thrive in small and urban gardens, even in winter climates like we have here in Chicago? You see, with this goal in mind, I've been searching, hoping that there's a way to do this, and I think I've discovered this way. And you might be asking, well, Randall, why are you trying to grow something that, maybe just isn't for this environment? And the thing is we use a lot of lemons and limes for cooking. And it's one of the few things as far as produce that we still go to the grocery store to purchase. And so this has been kind of gnawing at me, is like, isn't there a way to do it? And I saw this documentary, and it was about this chef in Italy, and they showed his home kitchen in his garden, and they showed him growing lemons. And then I noticed that the lemon tree, in fact, all of his citrus trees, were in large pots. And at first I was like, oh, well, maybe that's just possible because, the region he is in Italy. But I didn't want to give up. And as I dug more, I got even more excited because I started to see people growing citrus trees in containers, and they stayed relatively small. And that meant they could move them into a protected environment during the cold, harsh winter days, and then they could bring them back out if they wanted to. All right, so we'll need a few things to pot these up. You're going to need an appropriate sized grow bag. I chose grow bags because of the flexibility, the fact that they have handles so I can move the trees, things of that nature. But these are also really going to help with the roots because they're going to do what's called air pruning. And so it's going to build up a really dense root system, really healthy, hopefully, and it's not going to go outwards, rather than using a standard pot that's constricted. And then what you usually have to do is drill a bunch of extra holes, because the problem you have with those is drainage problems. And I find them a little bit harder to move around. That's like your terracotta pots, which also weigh a lot to begin with. Your plastic pots that tend not to last as long, although you can get some really sturdy ones. But again, I just find them a little harder to move around, and I want to really see if this air pruning technique works. I read while I was doing some research that a lot of the folks that you buy the trees from, especially the folks like these where they graft the trees to a dwarf rootstock, they utilize grow bags in order to do just that, to build a really healthy root system. So when they ship it to somebody, and especially if they're going to plant it in the ground, they're going to have such a healthy tree that as long as they plant it in the right place and it's in the right climate and all that good stuff, it's probably going to do really well. All right, let's get down here literally and talk a little bit about what do you have to do? What is part of what I've researched and what I'm talking about and part of my plan as far as some special strategies that you have to do to be successful growing citrus in a container? One of the big things that I've learned from my research is the soil. And what I commonly saw when I was researching was this stuff that people called a 5-in-1, which was five, like it sounds, 5 parts of something to one. And long story short, where I got the trees from, which has been great so far, I've been very happy, called Four Winds Growers. They simplify it for you. Palm, cactus, and citrus potting mix that you see here, which has a lot of those ingredients that's into the 5-to-1. And then the only thing that it's missing is this, what's called orchid bark. So just like it sounds, like you'd think of what maybe if you're familiar with what orchids are planted in. And you use either these 2 bags and this 1 bag together and you mix it all up. Or in my case, I've got a lemon and a lime tree here in back. I'm gonna split it up. So what you're gonna do in this case, since is you're just gonna need 1 bag of this. We're gonna use half and then a whole bag of this. So get your hoary or a small trowel and a grow bag. I'm going to go with this grow bag here. So what you basically want to do, you want to dump one of these bags in here, and then you're going to do half. So we're just going to pinch it, and there we go. All right, so get your tree out. And then whenever you transplant anything, but especially a tree, you want to be really, really careful. See how it's sitting in here? And if I give it a little bit of gentle tug, it'll kind of want to move. But what you'll actually want to do is try to let gravity work. Now, this is tricky with especially something like a citrus tree because it's got kind of loose soil. But you see how I'm just kind of letting that pull it out. That's how you want to do it. And if anything is kind of hard to pull out of there, you'll want to kind of go around it and try to press in with your hands to first release those roots in there. You don't want to upset those roots any more than you have to. A little trick here, since we've got this other grow bag, and especially as you're kind of figuring it out, like in my case with one of these, is we're going to utilize this empty one. Let's get these out of our way. That now it has a little bit of soil in the bottom. So now I'm just going to, like I said, let's let gravity do most of the work here. We're just going to set that in there. And then what you're looking for is you're looking to try to get the soil level similar. And it looks like we are right on the money. So you want to kind of hold that tree up. And then you want to slowly put the soil in the side here. You want to push it in there so that the roots really make contact with the bottom. Now you want to position them somewhere where they're still warm in your house, but they get a lot of sun. Then what you want to do is you want to carefully water them in. I like to use a little watering can that ideally only holds as much as I want to put in this one container. It might seem counterintuitive because you're going to have to refill it, but I like the fact that I know this is how much I want to put in, and for now I don't really want to put any more of that in. And there you go, they're all watered in, and hopefully they're going to be happy. So we've got these all potted up, we've got them in the right kind of soil. We carefully put them in these grow bags that I think are going to make the roots really healthy. And we've got them watered in. They're all ready to go. Something that I mentioned sort of in passing that I feel like I should go over a little bit more in depth, because I think it's really going to be key to being successful. We'll see if I'm successful, right? Planting citrus in, an urban environment. You might even be able to hear the sirens in the background, again. So we'll see if this is successful. But one of the key things that I discovered in my research, in my quest, if you will, of never giving up, trying to figure out how I could grow these in this environment, was that I had always seen those small kind of almost like fake. If you've ever tried the fruits, personally, I don't think they taste the same, and they're those little potted citrus trees with the small fruits. When I discovered that you could actually grow full-size fruit on a smaller tree by having a tree that was grafted to a dwarf or semi-dwarf rootstock. Now that sounds really complicated, but all it is that they take a dwarf or semi-dwarf type of citrus tree, so it's compatible. And then they graft a regular citrus tree onto the main stem. And what this allows us to do is have a tree that doesn't get as far as the height and the width is big, especially by putting it in a container. You can think about it kind of like fish in that regard. You know, most fish will only get so big based on the tank that you put them in, if you've never heard of that. And it's kind of similar with this, but a full-size tree will try to be a full-size tree or will be very unhappy in a container. So this is the key to it. So let's talk a little bit about what I chose and why. So wanted to grow lemons and limes, and it just so happened to be that my favorite improved Meyer lemons is available as a semi-dwarf. So this is a really good tasting. If you don't know much about improved Meyers, they're actually a cross, I believe, with a mandarin orange. So they have a wonderful flavor to them. And then there's these really good limes that have a lot of culinary uses. They're called bears, and I think I'm pronouncing that properly, but essentially it's like a Persian seedless lime, and they have a wonderful flavor and even the texture of them. Again, crafted onto a semi-dwarf rootstock. So this should be really happy in its container, I hope. Fingers crossed, right? And that's one of the big tricks that I learned that I think is going to unlock my ability to successfully grow and have my own fresh limes and lemons. This is my first attempt at growing citrus in Chicago, of all places. So I'm really excited to share this journey with you. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can get updates as I update you on this. I hope to have this greenhouse covered in snow and these little guys tucked away in here happy, and eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, producing fruit. So until next time, I'll see you later, and happy gardening.